You guys have seen several videos as well as an episode or two of our television series Home Diagnosis with my friend Anil Mittal. He and his wife Nilima have been talking with me and Grace for years about their mold disaster of a home where they have been suing the builder who did a number of things wrong. And this perfect storm of multiple things going wrong is really what we need to be careful of. I've got more videos about that coming soon. The good news is that his 6-year legal battle has finally come to an end. The last minute before they actually went into the trial of arbitration, which is this coming Monday, today, which is Friday, they have offered him a settlement, which is enough for them to say, all right, that works. We can walk away. So I just wanted to talk with him one more time before he has to sign a gag order, and we will never hear about this publicly again from him, so that we could get whatever scoop there is to get.
Morning.
Hello, buddy.
How are you?
I'm great. Good news from you.
Yeah, it's bittersweet. It's a bit bittersweet, but not bad news.
Because they didn't offer you as much as probably you wanted.
Bittersweet in the sense that they're obviously in the wrong and they're never going to be held accountable for it.
And just to be clear, you knew they weren't going to pay themselves, but you wanted to have them publicly acknowledge that it was their fault.
Right, right. And I'm sure part of the settlement agreement is going to say no one that they're not taking any blame, that this is just a cash settlement to appease us, so on and so forth.
So if you ask them, they're not sorry.
No, they're not sorry at all. And it's interesting, right? Because we got about half of what our damage model is. So the damage model is what you're entitled to under the law in Texas, which includes rebuild and remediation, temporary living expenses, moving expenses, attorneys, and expert fees. It's about half of that, which is not bad because from everything that I've read, even if you go into arbitration, you're not going to get everything that you're due.
Like they never historically have.
Never. No,
Wow.
no. Unless there's so I was reading the profile of the arbitrator and reviews that people have posted of her arbitrations. And
Really? What is this on Google? Where
yeah,
did they post
yeah,
reviews? No
Google.
way.
Yeah.
Huh.
And people said that they thought she had a good emotional intelligence, that she was intelligent in general, but they didn't like her attitude of splitting the baby. Meaning, whenever she does an arbitration, she tries to find some middle. It's more a mediation than it is an arbitration. At the end of the day, is what it sounds like from the reviews. Um,
So she's less of a judge who's going to decide who is right and wrong. And she's going to be like, look, everybody's right. We all win at the end of the day, things like that.
yeah, even though her job in this capacity is to be a judge, right, and to give a verdict and an award. Um, it seems like from all the reviews I've read, the award is never 100%.
And so if you can get half now or get 60% after 3 weeks of legal fees and you sitting in a courtroom all day long, just getting an
Right.
ulcer.
Yeah, and we ran through the costs with the attorney. It would probably to go through the 3 weeks of the trial, it's probably another $160,000 between attorney's fees and expert fees. So it's not worth the effort, which is kind of irritating, right? It should, if you've been wronged like this by a builder who blatantly, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, and you've seen test results, so there's no doubt in my mind that they didn't build this house correctly and they're at fault. They shouldn't get off the hook. They shouldn't be allowed to, pay you half of what they owe you. But
Which has no relationship to what it actually costs.
right, well, yeah, exactly, because they're they're going to argue that, oh, your rebuild and remediation costs are too high. You're using Cadillac pricing. You could do it with a Chevrolet.
Typical insurance stuff. I mean, that's the argument from the insurance companies
Exactly.
100% of the time.
Yeah. And then they're going to question, well, did you really incur all these legal fees? Maybe they overbilled you for these legal fees. So they're going to try to negotiate every little aspect of the award that you get in the end, which probably you'll end up at, I don't know, 75% to 50% of your damage model anyway. So it really wasn't worth the additional aggravation, hassle, expense to go through it all.
And now you're much less likely to have a heart attack or
Yes,
stroke
yes,
as a result
that
of.
is that is the upside. That's definitely the upside of it. It's a lot less stress for my wife and myself. I think the biggest takeaway we both have of this is we're pretty upset that the attorneys weren't more honest or weren't fully honest about the process. But
Your attorneys or their attorneys?
our attorneys, even our attorneys.
Hmm.
Because when we started this, our attorneys said, oh yeah, this is an open shut case, it's gonna take 10 months. And under the RCLA, which is the Residential Construction Liability Act in Texas, you will be awarded 3 times whatever your damage model is. So they kind of hook you, right?
And then how deep were you in the hole with legal fees with them before you realized how it actually works?
I was telling
Nilima.
I was telling Corey how they originally told us it was gonna be 10 months and we get 3 times the award. He's asking, how long was it before you realized that wasn't the case? We were pretty.
This is recorded, by the way, Nilima. This is being recorded. Are you okay with that?
Okay.
Okay, cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, but honestly, until check in hand doesn't feel real yet because they can drag that out. It's my understanding, our understanding. So-
Yeah, I've done some research and they've historically taken 6 to 12 months to pay out.
But now that you know that they are legally on the hook to pay out, you can go ahead and sell the house.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, great.
So that's very helpful. The fact that we can sell the house, so we stop having that reoccurring expense every month from the house. And we actually had an investor who's interested in purchasing the house that we should have under contract really soon.
That's great. And that is with a full mold disclosure. They know what it's like in there.
Yes.
As is full mold disclosure. I've actually had an attorney, he's putting together an addendum to the sales contract, specifically like in very plain language saying the buyer understands that there's no guarantees of habitability of this house or use or anything, that it's got mold, any toxic exposures, chemicals, etc. We're basically absolving us of any issues with mold.
What I've learned from this process of the mold house is that it is truly on the buyer to do their due diligence, because even between the sale from the owner to someone who's flipping it or whatever,
We
a lot
still
can happen.
Yeah,
A lot can happen in that time frame, even while they're doing whatever they're doing. So it is really the buyer's due diligence. You cannot count on other people.
yeah. Until I decided to hire another attorney for the sale of this house, and I started interviewing them, I didn't realize that if I sold this house, I'd be on the hook forever. If I sold this house under the standard Texas residential real estate sales contract, I'd be on the hook for any mold issues forever.
It's a little odd, right? Because a builder is not on the hook forever. So why is a reseller on the hook?
It just goes to the point, like at least in this state, there is a lack of consumer protection laws.
I mean, I'm going to say something. I don't think this is that politically
Okay.
controversial, but like you guys are easier to screw. I think that's America.
Yeah.
I think you could go to, so if you're watching this and you live in Delaware and you think that you're safe because you're not in Texas, not true. Like this is an American problem that we've got corporations that run stuff.
Yep.
And then when they're building houses, that's particularly problematic because if they're just putting lead in, cups, you could just not buy a cup. But if they're building a house for your family and then you end up where you guys are, let me ask you this. Does it make you feel better at all knowing that this wasn't a malicious, nobody like bombed your house with mold with intent? They did it accidentally. Does that make you feel better that it's like, at least they were just dumb?
So here's the thing. I think it was malicious. And it's funny you asked this question because I got in an argument with the builder's attorney because he was questioning the statement in our documentation saying that this was a malicious act. It wasn't malicious, and I'll tell you exactly why. The subcontractor that was building our house, or sorry, the supervisor that was building our house was simultaneously building 21 other houses, had already gotten a job with a custom builder. He was overworked. He already got a job with a custom builder. He was getting bonused on closing our house on time. So anything he could do to speed along the closing.
Including telling us, yeah, don't worry about it. Well, I'll take care of it. Just tell me what's wrong. I'll take care of it. You guys don't have to stay in a hotel then.
And he straight up told us, he said, don't put these defects on your closing documentation because then the builder was just like round at time won't close. And now you'll have to pay for your hotel stays for weeks on end, waiting for these things to be fixed. And he being the representative of the builder, we believed him. What we found out later is, number one, the builder would have had to pay for our hotel if they didn't close on time. And number two, he already had one foot out the door and he was in a hurry to get his bonus on this house and go take his job with the custom builder. And the other reason I feel it's malicious is he made the exact same shortcuts on the 4 or 5 houses around us who have all had very similar mold issues.
Just not as bad. Their mold issues were not as bad. Not as bad as ours.
Yeah, not as bad as ours.
Yeah.
And ours were exacerbated because the HVAC contractor came in and made so many incorrect modifications to the.
Because you guys kept nagging him to fix all the stuff that was broken, and he's like, "Fine, I'll just keep on just tweaking. I'm just going to twist some dials. I don't know what I'm doing around here."
We actually expect what we paid for, right, when we buy a house.
You think?
The lawyers kept telling us, don't take this personally. You know, they didn't set out to do this to you. You're just a number to them. But like Anil said, knowing what we know about how things went down, it was hard not to take it personally. But yeah, like when we did our depositions, we were just a number. They didn't care.
And now you guys, that supervisor, that project manager for the builder is long gone. He wasn't part of the suit.
Oh, not at all. He's long gone. In fact, I kept saying, you guys need to depose this guy and bring him to trial, bring him to the arbitration so he can speak to exactly what he did and what the process was. Because at the end of the day, I guess he was a victim of the system too, right? The builder put in place a system, like you shouldn't be bonused on closing on time to the detriment of the quality of the build. It just,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a neighborhood here that we used as the B-roll to put underneath you describing how they're building these days for the TV episode. And just driving around there, it just seems like the culture of building is really what you guys have been up against for the last 6 years and what we're all up against every day without knowing it. But
yeah,
like, nobody cares because nobody in the companies that they're in those cultures says it's okay to care. It's like, dude, get the freaking job. Don't be a dick. Just build the house. Like, what is your problem? Me. Don't details. Like, we got to build a house. We're building a house. Do it.
It's fine if you're bonus on finishing on time. It gives you incentive, yes, but there are no inspections that actually matter in this state. That creates a bit of a problem because nobody's checking the work in a way that actually matters.
Yeah. And what I was going to say, Corbett, is there's a brand new neighborhood I drive by every morning on the way to physical therapy. And I literally feel sick to my stomach when I see the pace at which they're building those houses. And I see them doing things like they completely finish the exterior of the house except the roof. And it sits like that for a month in the rain.
They did that
And then all of a sudden,
here, too.
behind the scenes, yeah.
Because they were new building houses after we moved in, and we watched as mold grew on the studs.
Yeah, it's just and they just don't care. It's get in, get out as fast as they can. Like I see them pouring a foundation in the morning. The next day they're already framing the house. Like, what about allowing some compressive strength of the foundation before you start putting weight on it? I mean, or put a roof on a house before you let it sit out in the rain for a month. And it's not like it rains lightly here in Houston. It rains hard when it rains.
Not to mention the humidity that is like, what, 8 out of 12 months out of the year?
No.
Yep. So if they're doing it where you guys are, then they're doing it other places too. If they don't care about the rain in Houston, then they just don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're gonna make you sign an NDA, a gag order.
Yes, they're gonna make us sign a gag order, non-disparaging, and some clause about non-disparaging is going to be in there.
Is there any disparaging you'd like to do right now as you have the last minute?
I mean, I feel like it wasn't a Lennar home, okay? And I feel like that makes a difference. Because like we live in a Lennar home right now.
But we've had a lot of problems with
We
this
have,
house,
right.
right?
We have had a lot of problems.
Fundamental issues.
But I don't think that any other builder's going to do any better. I mean, I feel like that's just the way it is, unfortunately, unless you're standing there watching over everything and you don't have a job to go to.
And even then you can't, right? Like if you want to buy a house that's quote unquote affordable, you're going to buy a production built house. there's no stopping a production builder. Like once that train has left the station, there is no stopping them. You can't tell them not to do something, to wait until something's fixed. That'll never happen. They won't do it, unfortunately. So the majority of America is stuck with this quality of house. And I think the best you can do is do things like we do. We test this house for mold every year.
I think that if you have any underlying health conditions, you may be more susceptible to mold that is growing in a house, and not everybody is affected the same way. And to take that into consideration when buying a new home, or even an older home that's being resold. I recently heard on a podcast somebody talk about how buying a brand new build is the way to go to not have mold, and it's like, I don't know about that, because we had a brand new build. So I think you just really have to be a very, very knowledgeable buyer, especially if you have any kind of health conditions. I don't care if it's heart disease, diabetes, allergies, asthma, I don't care what it is. You know, even if you have a child on the spectrum, it can affect you differently.
And people need to change their mindset about houses. Like we've talked to people that thought it was okay that when they walked into their house, their eyes watered.
Or their nose burned.
Or
And
their
it's
nose
like,
burned.
really?
Or they thought it was okay to wipe mold off of their air conditioning vents every couple months. That's not okay. And people believe that's normal, because unfortunately the housing culture, the construction business is this way, right? And if it persists long enough, it's the norm. It becomes a norm.
Hmm.
When it really shouldn't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so any last thoughts on a positive note? Like, what are you guys going to do tonight to celebrate?
I haven't been doing so much. We're not
Yeah.
really celebrating anytime soon, but we do have a plan to go to Fogo de Chao with some friends and have a really nice brunch there. What is Mittal?
Nice. All right.
I differ on this process and whether or not we would recommend it to somebody to go through this journey of a fight. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Because the lawyers, they don't tell you the truth and they drag it out because there is a conflict of interest there.
Would you say that you're the more sensitive of the two of you, Nilima?
No, I'm pretty practical.
Okay.
And practically speaking, I think that 6 years is just a really long time to have to put your life on hold. And luckily, unluckily, COVID happened in the middle, which helped put our lives on hold a little bit. But I wouldn't suggest it to anybody. I would say, get out of your house, go find another place to live, start over, end the chapter, forget about it. Just don't even deal with the builders, especially here. The laws are just not on your side. He thinks it was worth it. Great. We would give different opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really glad we didn't end up upside down and losing money in this entire transaction. And with the money that we are walking away with, there's no way we would have been able to save that money in the 6 years that we did this. So there's a bit of a positive.
But we sacrificed a lot to pay these bills, right?
It's expensive. Yep.
I mean, unless you're willing to sacrifice.
Right.
I mean, no going out to dinner, no going out to the movies, no vacations, no little splurges, don't go out for coffee. I mean, your daily coffee, it all adds up. You do sacrifice. And it's
I feel like for me, I'm the sensitive one in my family, and I feel like the heartache and the just anger that it would simmer in me all day long, knowing that, like, I don't know, that seems like the main cost to me.
Plus, every time you go to mediation, it is a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster ride.
And we're the little people, and they know it. And I mean, the only reason this is ending is because arbitration's Monday, right? Or else, why did they drag it out this long? They could have gotten away with a lot lower settlement if they just took care of it and took us seriously to begin with.
6 years ago. Like
The first offer was how much? 30?
$30,000 was the first offer.
We laughed.
The second mediation, we got all the way up to 221. Honestly, this week was the first time the builder actually, in our opinion, had a good faith effort in trying to settle this. And I wonder if it's because they deposed our experts last week and they realized how screwed they were, and they don't want to go to arbitration.
And
They started deposing each other also. After they deposed our experts,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we, like, our suit,
Yeah, sorry.
our suit was against the builder, and then they filed a motion to bring in these 4 or 5 subcontractors into it. So instead of us just suing the builder, it's us against these 5 or 6 parties. What had happened was a week or two ago, the builder deposed our experts and spent 8 hours with each of them, interviewing them and finding out from them what are the defects in the house. Once the builder completed those depositions, the builder then deposed experts from the subcontractors, which they had never done in the past.
Mm.
And we both suspect it's because when they heard our experts' testimony, they realized the subcontractors did mess up.
Mm.
And now they're trying to pin it on specific subcontractors. And I think only once it got to that point, the underlying insurance companies of all these subcontractors said, okay, we screwed up. Let's offer some money to end this before we go to arbitration. Because if we go to arbitration and lose, we're going to lose a lot more.
Because our experts can connect why this thing is not connected to that. Like they can prove scientifically why this is not connected to that. Their experts are just like, this caused this, but they can't scientifically connect anything.
Their expert reports are like, plaintiff added 4 recessed lights to the family room.
Okay, and
It's like, okay, and their report is just full of stuff like that, just statements like that. And everyone's like, oh, they have a highly modified house. That's the reason that it grew mold.
Mm.
Whereas our experts are like, no, here's the cause, and here's a result. Here's a cause, here's a result. And here's all the scientific reasoning as to why it happened.
so when I was deposed, one of the lawyers asked me about why the red light modification we made in the master bedroom, and he's trying to make it sound like we did all this. I was like, we changed the light bulb.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you made a modification to make red light in the house, and that's what caused the mold. And Nilly's like, no, he changed the light bulb. We took the light bulb out and put a red light bulb in.
And you know where they got that information from? Facebook. We had no idea. Our lawyers didn't prepare us that they were going to go on Facebook and look at stuff. So we had no idea.
Red light. What is this alchemy? Why is this light a different color? So weird.
We changed the light bulb.
Yeah. Well, that's not all he did. He kept a lot of notes. You did a really good job, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. This is a big accomplishment. So I feel very good for you.
That's the other lesson.
What?
Keep notes.
Keep records.
Records, written records of everything, not phone calls, emails. If somebody wants to talk to you on the phone about an order, no, please email me. And keep everything. It's the only way you can defend yourself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy for you guys. I hope you at least take a ride in your sweet car. Did you clean the mold off that car?
I haven't cleaned the car and changed the oil and stuff like that. I have to do all
Is
that.
it registered even?
It's registered
It's
now. I have
registered.
temporary plates for it. Yeah.
Cool. Good. I'm happy that you got that back. Well, I hope that you guys are breathing a little easier now.
Okay. How about that?
Yeah.
You're gonna go. Yes, good. Do that with your 65-degree sleep cooling system.
Yeah.
Very happy for you guys. And so, are you gonna start thinking about your home? You've been planning this like forever home build.
Yeah, we already started talking about like we need to sit down and redo some plans because
Good.
living in this house, we've learned we have patterns and we need to change some of the layout in that house. You know, every house teaches you that.
Yeah.
How you live your life now, right? What the you probably have the right words for this,
Flow.
but what the flow is for each of us throughout the day, right?
Let's celebrate by having you bring your plans to the Patreon meetup, and we can do that like we've been doing for some of the other people in there. That'd be fun. I think everybody would like to see your next house after having been through this journey with you. Thank you guys very much for sharing this with everybody in the Patreon meetup, and then also everybody on the YouTube channel and the TV show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, for getting the word out there. Like to hear that some people actually benefited from this experience makes it a little bit more worth it.
Sometimes it's good to be a type A personality, and we both are. So it in this situation, it really worked for us.
Good. Yep. You guys are role models for other people. So well, I'm putting all of the videos that you can see Anil and Nilima in the notes for this video. You guys make sure that you comment below if you have any congratulations to offer to Anil and Nilima. If you have any notes about things that you're struggling with yourselves, make sure that you are just make your voice heard. Like and subscribe. Tune in next time.